Now that's different. I'll tell you something about voice acting. Some people say, well, when you use my voice, it's easy. It's not that easy. It's very hard because your voice becomes the actor. And while we're making, what is it I made? Oh, SpongeBob. I came across the word evil. And it came out, evil! And they said, Jesus, can you hold it? I said, sure. Do it again. Evil! They said, that's it, you got the part. See, your voice does it for you. Your voice does it. It's not that hard. It's not that hard once you get onto it. But once you start, what am I trying to say? It's hard. Okay?
Hi, Mr. Borgnine. How are you? I just want to say it's a pleasure to see you. I love your work as a SpongeBob. It's a real joy to watch the program.
I'll tell you what. I'm a little hard of hearing. I got ear things out of here that I can't hear with. But I appreciate your efforts and everything else. You got to appreciate mine because I'm trying like the son of a gun to listen to you, you know what I mean? But I can't take out all of you. So whatever it is, you'll tell me. Sure. And you've gone from there. What do you say now? Hey, I appreciate it too. You know why? Kids get the biggest charge. Every time I open my mouth and I see a little one come by, you know, and then I said, I get these, email! Where did that come from? You can't believe it. And I tell them, hey, I'm not going to, you're the what? No, it's a voice that does that. It's a man that does that. You're not the, well, they don't believe it half the time, but, you know, you got to go with it. But anyway, go ahead.
Sure. What I was going to say, my main question is that SpongeBob is the kind of show where really kids and adults and everybody can watch alike. I've noticed at least, you know, from growing up, that Saturday morning cartoon used to be very popular, and used to have that, you know, feeling where you can watch it and enjoy it. And it seems like the suspension of disbelief is not there as much as it would. Do you think that we can get back to that era? Because kids seem to be growing up way too fast.
Was it good? And why not? That's what it's made for, right? It's made for kids 9 to 95. I'm up to 94. Next man.
I didn't even know where to start with your career, but I got to go with the Wild Bunch question.
Wow.
You've worked on a lot of sets. You've worked with easy collaborators and difficult collaborators. Where does Sam Peckinpah fit in there?
Sam Peckinpah was the kind of director, you know, you read all about him and you say, this is the worst man in the world. You know something about Sam Peckinpah? He was never really understood. He was the genius behind the Wild Bunch. He gave his version of what the West was really like. And the West in those days was a very hard thing to come by. You know, you lived by your wits alone. And if you didn't have the good wits to go along with it, you didn't last long. And that's the way he played it. And believe me, Sam knew his West like no other person in the world. He was that kind of a director and a wonderful guy to boot. He would sit back and watch his professionals go to work. And every now and then he'd say, well, try this or do that. And we'd do it, go back in, and that's okay, that's fine. And we always got home at an early age, at an early time of night, to go out and have a couple of tequilas and hey man, we were living. We did it all in a place called Parras in Mexico. The place was so old that they were still showing Tom Mix pictures over there. Tom Mix?
I know the name.
Thanks very much.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, you're known primarily as a superb character actor, but occasionally character actors do get to play the lead, and your most acclaimed lead role was as Marty. And Marty had been performed earlier by Rod Steiger on television, and I was just wondering, how do you prepare for a role that somebody else has done so well and still make it your own?
I didn't see his version. They wanted to show it to me, and I said, what for? And they said, well, you know, you get an idea. I said, I have my own ideas. And it came across that way, I think. The hardest part we had, believe it or not, we were standing at 2 o'clock in the morning up on one of the great big highways up there in the Bronx. And the producer, the director, and the writer were all disagreeing as to how to play that certain role. And the role was, I had just left the girl, remember? And I'm walking along and I'm full of every, you know, the old P and V, you know what I mean? and I didn't know what to do, you know? And they're all arguing now, what do we do here? What do we do? And what happened? I said, listen, you mind if I put in my 2 cents? So what? Well, what do you want? And I said, well, let me try it on my own. So they looked at me, you know, like I was another creature from another world or something. And I said, okay, go ahead. They said, okay, try it. So I'm working back and forth, and I'm full of the old, you know, country dog, and I'm looking up at this sign, and suddenly I went, kaboom! I hit the sign, and went, taxis! They kept it in. That's the way it played. And they were very happy with it. Nobody could say taxis. Thank you.
Hey, Mr. Borgnine, I'm going to ask the question that basically everyone here wants to ask you. What was it like playing Mr. Dinslow in the classic movie Basketball?
Baseball. Matt Stone, you saw that picture? Bus one time, a bus motorhome. And I was quite away from home, and I was going to stay overnight in this wonderful place. That's a wonderful place. You tie up where the lights were, you know, in front of a big old grocery store. And I saw this pizza place over there, and these kids are all around, and it's a 40-foot bus motorhome, you know, and that's pretty good. So I finally stepped up, and they looked at me. Never said a word. And then suddenly they all took off like crazy. I went over and I was sitting in a restaurant, and as I came out, they were all waiting for me. You did basketball! So don't shoot me, please. It's the greatest picture we've ever seen. First I was ever in. Tell you how they gauge it. How much money do they make? That's the way it goes, kid. Good, bad, or indifferent, how much money do they make? Unfortunately. But no, it's a good picture. A lot of people enjoyed it, you know? I I can just see that hot dog coming out of my mouth. Ugly, next!
Mr. Borgnine, it is an honor and a pleasure to be in your presence. I have followed you since McHale's baby all the way up. And in one of your recent Hallmark films, Grandpa for Christmas, which was fabulous.
Oh, thank you.
But when my mom finds out that I have talked to you, she's going to, she's 81, but she's going to go ecstatic. But I
Not my best.
I will do that. Thank you so much. She truly adores you also. For McHale's Navy, there was such a comedic presence with you and Tim Conway. And I was reading your bio, and you guys are still friends to this day. Is that
Right. Absolutely. We see each other for lunch every time we get together, you know. Or we do SpongeBob together. Did you know that?
Well, honestly, I just found out a couple months ago that
He's
you.
a wonderful boy, but not his birthday man. It's crazy, but you know, hey, living's a living, right?
I recently, just a few months ago, found out you did SpongeBob. I did not know that. I do part-time acting, and I have actually dressed up as SpongeBob for children's parties.
You know?
I wore a SpongeBob.
Are you an actress or?
I am a part-time actress.
Hang in there.
Well,
It's a long journey, I'll tell you. It's a long journey, but if you make it, it brings you the greatest thrill in the world. If, you know, have people come up and say, thank you so much for even existing. That's wonderful. This is the most wonderful thing that could possibly happen to an actor. Is when people come up and say, gee, I love your role and I love you and please keep up the good work. Boy, you don't know what it does to you. It's brilliant. It's one of those things.
well, I've only tasted a small amount of that with the stage acting and a little bit of film acting I've done, but I totally agree with you. It makes it worthwhile when someone says, good job.
I'll tell you something. The first thing about an actor is they gotta know what they're talking about. I found out one thing. I thought I was all through studying when I became an actor, so-called, you know. I never realized I had to study so much in my life. I read everything, whether I like it or not. Read it! Because the more you learn, the more that you can project out, you know a little bit about life. You know what really, the worst thing in the world is when some writer puts down, they fall in love, or they make love. Are you kidding? Nobody knows how to make love. You know, it's the idea, how do you approach love? What do you know about love? That's life. That's when you get to be a little bit older and a little bit wiser, and you know all of it. Listen, I'll tell you something. I've been through 4 marriages. I never got married to get divorced, but you never understood women either. Because of the fact, you know, that everybody has their own private thing. And somehow or other, I found out one thing. And this goes for all of you who intend to get married or stay married. Communicate. Communicate. I found out if you communicate and you talk to the person back and forth, believe me, it opens up doors all the way around. My wife and I, we call each other, or wherever we're at in the world, call each other and let ourselves know that we love each other. And that's what counts. We've been married now for 38 years.
You mentioned it already, but any tales from the making of Emperor of the North?
I used to go home at night, and I'd have my makeup on and everything else, and I'd walk in with my wife and look at her. And I said, honey, am I really that bad? Am I really that kind of a bad person? Where is this coming from? I couldn't believe I could be so bad. And yet, I'm not bad enough. I wasn't really bad enough. Just think of what's happening in real life, where we can't go to a football game without somebody beating up pajamas out of somebody. Isn't that terrible? What do we come to? You know, you got to stop and think that, you know, somehow or other we're just not making sense here. And it's all right to portray a bad guy and, you know, show it on the screen how terrible a person can really be. But to be that kind of a terrible person in real life, no, that doesn't go for me at all. When I read about these things, it leaves me pretty well pickled off, you know what I mean? And I just don't like it. And so, you know, when you play these kind of people, you kind of say to yourself, where does it come from? That happens, it's bad, and people say, you were bad. That's not saying it's bad enough.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now.
Hi, first of all, I just want to say I love you. I have been following your career since my very favorite movie of all time, The Dirty Dozen. But one of my favorite shows growing up was Airwolf. I didn't know how much training you and Jan Michael Vincent had to have to do everything that you did in that TV show.
We went crazy. Really, you know, it's really something. When you become an actor, a professional, it's a little different, you know what I mean? First you read the script. You find out what the devil's going on here, what's the story all about and everything else. And you figure out your own mind and how you would play that kind of role, what you're doing. I usually, when I read the script, if I don't fall asleep by the fourth page, it's a good script. But if I fall asleep, forget it. I don't play it. As a matter of fact, I just finished one. I'll tell you how crazy this thing is. I just finished a picture called The Man Who Shook the Hand of Vincent Fernandez. Now, Vincent Fernandez is a real character. He's a singer called the Frank Sinatra of Mexico. He's a real person. And we asked him to do the picture because, hey, it's after Vincent Fernandez. And he said, no. He said, too many Americans have taken advantage of him, so he didn't want to do it. But his son liked the picture. And he said, well, maybe we can bring him around. But anyway, in the meantime, we found somebody that looked just like him. So we went ahead and made the picture. I played the man who shook the hand. Well, I want to tell you, I first read the script and I said, fourth page, forget about it. And the guy said, wait a minute, read it over again. Oh, I respect the man's opinion. So I started to read it again. First thing you know, I couldn't put it down. And this was all written by a man who heard the story from a man who actually shook the hand of Vincent Fernandez. And he put it all together and made a Western out of it inside of a home where the older people go to. And this man gets in there, he can't wait to get out because, you know, it's full of this and that and intrigue and everything else. And the first thing you know, he said one day somebody mentioned Vincent Fernandez. He said, Vincent Fernandez, I did not know that name, Vincent Fernandez. Oh yeah. He said, I remember this guy was trying to make a film and everything else, trying to sell his pictures, and he came over to me and he said, I like you, put out his hand and shook it. You shook the hand of Vincent Fernandez? This is from the Mexicans, because they adore him. And the fella made a whole picture out of this thing as a Western inside of a get-well home, what do they call it? Nursing home. And I swear to goodness, it's the funniest thing you've ever seen in your life. It's wonderful, and yet that's all about humanity. It's full of what people want to do and can't do. The part that I play is a man who is in what the heck you call him? A man himself, you know, who does records on the radio. DJ man. And he wanted to be an actor. He wants to be a real good actor. And he keeps studying this part of Western. He's going to be a Western boy. And one day he gets a chance to go. And he muffs it. He doesn't muff it. It's just the way that he has to do the part. And instead of the great big speech that he was waiting to make, you know, they give him one line, period. And oh yes, brother, we know exactly what we want. It's called The Man Who Shook the Hand of Vincent Fernandez. Watch for it when it comes out, because it's going to be a scorcher. Now, that had nothing to do with what you wanted to do.
It's very interesting, and I'm glad you told me. I was just mainly talking about the technical aspects with the helicopter. But no, my mom would love to be here, but she couldn't. And I was wondering if I could have
the helicopter go.
No, but you acted like you could fly it very well.
They found out, you know, they used to take us up and we used to do the scene up there and everything else was fine. And wonderful until the insurance company found out. No! Can't put them up in the air, my God, if anything happens, you know, we're dead. So right away we stopped the business of going up in a helicopter. But what we did was mostly on the ground, you know, making believe.
Right.
The thing that used to be the most funniest thing of all, we would take the helicopter and bring it up to an air show or something, you know, and put a long yellow line all the way, a police line, all the way around, you know. We'd have all the guns sticking out and everything else. And nobody could go by because you take a look, you can take all the pictures, but you can't go in there because, you know, it's really, the Russians were worried about it. They thought we were trying to pull something. And when they went inside that crater, you know, that we had, oh my God, this is amazing. Little did they realize it was all miniature. You got to take a license somehow, right?
That's incredible. I was going to ask you if I could have a nameplate to take to my mom.
About it? See, I let out something I shouldn't have told you. Nameplate for my mother? You got it. Want me to sign it for you?
I would love
that. Let me hear it. Love, Jack Smith. You know, I approached Lee Marvin one time. We were making a picture called the train picture that we did. Emperor of the North. And he was all dressed up as a hobo. And I said, here, sign this, because we made the very first Western we ever made in our lives together for Randolph Scott. And then he said, "Here, sign this." So he put down, you know, I expected to be Marvin, right? He put down Randolph Scott. I said, "You bum." But I still got it.
Good afternoon, sir. Could you kind of elaborate on your character and experience?
Talk a little louder, go ahead.
Can you elaborate on your experience with Escape from New York?
Gabby.
Escape from New York?
Escape from New York. Can you just tell us about your experience?
John Carpenter, the director, called me and said, "Listen, meet me for lunch at the smokehouse over there opposite of Warner Brothers in Los Angeles." And I said, "Sure, okay." So I went, and John was wonderful, and I had read the script, and they said, "I want you to play the cabin." I said, "I want to play the cabin?" I said, I can play it with my eyes shut. I said, I thought that part of being a warden was pretty good, you know, playing the warden. And he said, "No, but I wrote this for you." Well, John's a pretty good old guy, you know what I mean, and a wonderful fella. And I said, "Okay, John, for you, I'll do it." So we played it. And uneventful, boom, bam, bam, and I got killed in the whole thing and everything else. We went to see the film. My wife and I sitting in the back. And the whole place was crowded because it was the first time ever shown. And all these actors are there, and it was just wonderful. And not a word was said, not a word did you hear about, oh, this, oh, that, and nothing, until they got to where they found out suddenly that I had died. The car had crashed, and I was there laying down, and everybody went, "Oh." I said, "My God, John was right. You wrote the part for me."
Hey, Ernie, it's good to see you again. I wanted to publicly, all of us, to congratulate you on winning the Lifetime Achievement Award from the Screen Actors Guild. But also, you worked on multiple occasions with three guys who are known for being tough on screen, who are also pretty tough off screen. Glenn Ford, Charles Bronson, and Lee Marvin. What were those three guys really like? Glenn Ford, Lee Marvin, and Charles Bronson. And Glenn Ford.
They were cookies. Easiest thing in the world. You know, I've met an awful lot of people in my time. I really have. And you grow to where, you know, you can kind of evaluate for yourself exactly what's happening, you know what I mean? And some guys put on airs, you know, boy, you know, I'm the star, and don't be, hey, listen, he's a star, let him alone. You're a star in your own right, too. You know, it's that simple. But people forget, they try to outdo one another. And the first thing you know, you get people with, you know, hammering their heads against each other, and you're sitting back laughing all the way to the back. Right? That's the way it goes. So if you're smart, you know, just play it down the middle. They were like kids, really. Glenn Ford was, the only thing he said to me, he said, "You smoke?" I said, "No, sir, I don't." I've given it up at the time. He said, "Good, you can send all your cigars to me." All right, he loved to smoke cigars. You know, fine. Lee Marvin, a puppy. Don't get me wrong, he was a hard nut. I'll never forget. I hope that the black people in their audience won't be offended, but Lee was that kind of a fella. He just, you know, threw it on, threw it away. But we were working in getting ready to do the Dirty Dozen. And we were dressing different scenes. And we had finished one scene, and that's when they brought in the football player. I forgot.
Jim Brown. Jim Brown.
That's it, Jim Brown. And the director said, okay, bring in Mr. Brown. And Lee, you know, apparently he'd been drinking a little bit, and he said, yeah, bring in the nigger. Nothing was said. Not a word was said. Mr. Aldrich said, the director said, Lee, can I see you in my office for a minute? Yeah, walked in. He was there for about 3 minutes. He walked out dead sober. And never took another drink in the picture again. Not ever. You gotta tell you what kind of a guy he was. The sweetheart, really. But you had to know him. He had just come back from winning the Academy Award. And we were up against, you know, the English students don't have too much sun. So we were outside, you know, getting a little sunshine on our face and talking back and forth, you know. And he said, yeah, it was wonderful and everything else. And this fella came by and he looked at us, you know, and he said, gee, I wonder what 2 Academy Award winners have to say to each other. And without losing a beat, he said, you'll never know. Hey, sweetest man in the world. We almost got killed together. We ran out of cigarettes. We were doing a picture called Veracruz down in Mexico with Keanu Cooper and what the heck was his name?
Borgnine.
Borgnine. See how you forget? Anyway. So we got on our horses, we were going down to the cantina to get some cigarettes. And a whole boatload of soldiers went by. They were looking for this renegade senator that had down in Mexico. And they said, well, hola, come on by, you know, and passed that by. And suddenly we had, alto, which means stop, buddy. So we looked around, and all these soldiers had their guns fighting, looking at us, you know. Moment, you know, wait a minute. No, we're actors, no. They thought they were, you know, bad guys because we had all our costumes and everything else. What do they know? I remember one time in the Wild Bunch, the very first shot that we ever did, we had part of the Mexican army up there, you know, and they said, hey, you know, we're going to be shooting at each other, pull that in, and okay, fine. And they said, all right, start firing. And I heard, and I was going on. Hold it, wait a minute. These guys didn't know that they're not supposed to use real ammunition. Those are the chances you take, buddy.
Thank you, Ernie. Thank you so much. Love you.
It's so nice to meet you after all this time. A couple of years ago, there was a McHale's Navy marathon on TV, and I got a chance to see the show. I hadn't seen it since I was 5. And seeing as an adult, it seemed to me that most of the comic interplay was between Ensign Parker and Captain Binghamton with McHale being the straight man, and it kind of seemed like you were overshadowed by those two.
Who cares? Until you I was dead. whole secret that a lot of people forget. That, you know, an ensemble gets together. I don't care who stands out, but it's all for the good of picture. People forget that. They don't know, I'm the star, and I'm the one that I want to be shown. People forget that. As long as you can make a picture where people say, oh boy, wasn't that great? And forget that, wait a minute, he said more words than I did. That's crazy. Who cares? You know? At least I don't. I know there are people out there that go, oh no, I'm a star. Believe me, I'm, you know, hey. Never bothered me one bit. Matter of fact, I used to give some lines to the boys, you know. Hey, say this or say that because it suits you better than it does me. And you know, it's there. That's what it's all about. And if you can work together as a team, and people say, my God, wasn't that fun?
I'm here to say thank you. I met you 25 years ago in Montgomery, Alabama at a golf, at George Lindsay Golf Club.
That's when I was playing golf with George Lindsay.
Right, in Montgomery. And I would like these people to understand you. I saw Mr. Borgnine pull up on the 18th hole, and a young girl for the Special Olympics, he was playing a charity tournament. Young girl hollered at Mr. Borgnine really loud, and he got his attention. He got out of his golf cart, ran across the green, pulled this girl out of the crowd, put his arm around her, walked her over and put her in his golf cart. They cut it through. He drove her around the green, took her back to her parents, and the sun went dark. You could not see anything for the brightness in that little girl's face.
You tell those kind of stories, I'm going to walk out.
You have an effect on me, and I wanted to say thank you.
God bless you. Thank you.
As a young man, very interested in military shows and military comedy shows were a very positive effect on myself. I got out of the Marine Corps in 1998. But my question to you, sir, is can you please share with us the craziest thing that happened on the set of McHale's Navy?
Thank you, sir. I really appreciate that. Crazy stories about McHale's Navy?
Yes, sir. I'd love to hear the craziest.
Wasn't it crazy enough? Golly, I don't know. What can you possibly say? I think the craziest story of all, that leaves me absolutely, I come apart every time I think of it, is when a Tim Conway comes in as my executive officer. And he's riding on the boat, holding on to a rope. Remember? His very first scene, very first part, he's my executive officer coming in to report, right? And suddenly the boat stopped and he kept right on going. It fell apart. Every time I think of it, I'm going. Those are the funny things that happen. You know, if we brought enjoyment, that's what it's all about. If people just like to sit back and think of all those things that happen, it brings them joy and forget the kind of troubles they had during the day. This is nice. This is good. And I remember women that have come up to me and said, "You're the best babysitter we've ever had." Are you serious? What is this? He said, we know exactly where our children are when McHale's Navy comes out. And that's where they were, right in front of the television picture, you know? And it was wonderful to know. And these are the kind of things that make you happy.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome, sir.
A little bit from my point, but the question is, as a kid, one of my favorite movies was Flight of the Phoenix. What was it like working between you guys on such a set like that, where everything from the really soft?
Hot. We were out in the middle of the desert, and I want to tell you, it was hot. Again, Bob Aldrich was the director. And he was the kind of a director, I'll tell you, that saw everything. He noticed everything. And one day, we were just looking up on a shot, and suddenly he stopped and he said to the assistant director, he said, that fella up there in the truck with the water, he said, has he got enough to drink? I don't know, sir, I didn't check. He said, check! And he went up there and found out the fellow had enough to drink. That was a director. That's the kind of person that Bob Aldrich was. He was the kind of a fellow that learned his lesson with Charlie Chaplin. He was that good, you know. And he was also the kind of a man who found out that he had a blood thing that would make, he had to have his blood changed every single day or something like that. And he said, how long is what is it? Yeah, dialysis. And he said, how long is this going to take? He said, you do it every day for the rest of your life. He called his family together and told him exactly what he wanted. He told the doctor, he said, pull the blood. That was Bob Aldrich. He was that kind of a person. And I'll never forget, he was crying on one of my scenes, and he made me do it again, and he still cried. And he said, son, kind of really did it, huh? But that was Bob Aldrich. I loved him. He was like, he also did Emperor of the North with us, you know. I'll never forget, his very first thing to me, he said, Ernie, he said, you ever work on a train before? I said, no, sir. He said, that's the engine up there. That's the caboose back there. Sure. He said, we will be working from the engine to the caboose. The caboose to the engine. Yes, sir. He said, and remember, you worked on this train for 30 years. So when you're running on top of the train, you can't look down. That was his advice. So I became like Jack Elam, with one eye down and one eye up. Okay? Thank you, sir.
Hello, Mr. Borgnine. I'm a first generation McHale's Navy fan. And my question about the second McHale's Navy movie, you were not in it. Was that by your choice? McHale's Navy joins the Air Force.
I tell you, I got to tell you a story. And this is true. It's true. They said, we're going to, you know, we'd like to have Borgnine in the picture. University. Well, I said, that's fine, you know, but how much are they all going to offer? There's nothing in business, you know. And yet they're paying this other fellow $6 million. So I said to my agent, I said, you know how to act? I said, what do you mean? He said, well, I said, when they just start laughing when they mention how much you're going to give us. Just start You know, hey, that's wonderful. No, it won't take it. You know, she started laughing. What are you laughing for? I said, well, no, it won't take that. Oh, well, what's he want? He said, $400,000. Start big, man, because it's the only way you're going to get it. Well, I ended up with, they wanted 14 days and $40,000, period. So I said, no, and they said, that's no good. I want at least 400,000. We settled for 3. And they gave me 3 days' work. Period. I was done in 3 days' work and walked off with the money. But yet it was the most awful picture I was ever in. And I made it. You know, when he said, Admiral, sir, I said, what? And he said, oh, Dad. I said, that's better. He didn't even want to put down, you know, McHale, Dad McHale. But that's the mentality of these people that you're dealing with. You know, they don't want any kind of relationship at all. Just leave it be and maybe nobody will notice. What is this? That's what McHale was all about, you know. And I didn't see anything to laugh at that picture at all, did you?
Okay, are you talking about the remake from McHale's Navy or the McHale's Navy joins the Air Force?
Oh, McHale's Navy joins the Air Force? Oh, that one. That's one that they didn't want me to picture in the first place because they wanted just Tim Conway and Kennedy, Phil. And they forgot that, you know, little boys had to have something to spin around, you know. You need somebody that's strong that you can spin around so that you can play your comedy. But how are you going to play comedy if you got nobody to spin around, right? So they didn't know about it, they walked there, maybe just a ticket. So they wouldn't even send me a script. So okay, fine, do it. And you know something? It lasted about 2.5 days and that was it. Gone. And the producers, when they had a big producers convention at Paramount one time, everybody turned to me and said, where the hell were you? I said, well, you know, no, they said, we understand. Again, the mentality. You know? So, there you go. Things happen like that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I haven't heard anybody ask you about Can you tell us something about it?
Good. I read this script. And I said, wow. Well, I said, by the time I get around to me with the rats and everything else, I'll have my stand-in do it, and there. He can get all the rats all over himself, right? So, then, they offered me 10% of the gross. And I said, who in the hell is going to go see a picture about rats? The very first week, they made over $32 million. And I said, I refused it because I said, no, I just want the money up front. Forget it, because no one's going to see rats. And besides, I was happy in a way because it meant that I would have had to give it all over in alimony.
Mr. Borgnine, we're honored to have you here. I think all of us here in this room can truly say, amongst all the entertainers that have ever been in our country, that you are a national treasure. Also, have been talking to people in the room, and I think we also would like to praise you about something because I think we all hope that we have the zest for life and the energy level when we are 94 years of age that you do. As a matter of fact, I think we all hope we get to be 94 years of age. career as different as night and day. So which did you prefer, playing Quentin McHale of McHale's Navy or Dominique Santini of Airwolf, and why?
Good question. It's a good question, really. I'll tell you why. McHale's Navy was one of those ensemble kind of things, you know. I hate like the devil to say anything bad about people because, hey, inwardly we're all like that, you know. Crazy ideas and everything else, but inwardly, we try to be good, you know? In the McHale's Navy, we were all working for one thing, laughs, and coming up with a good product. I never forget, I got into a hell of an argument with my producer one time in McHale's Navy. And I went up to him and I said, you know, when you come back from seeing the Russians, for the day's work that we had, you know, yesterday's work. Please come down and just kind of pat these boys on the back and, you know, say, hey, you're doing a hell of a job because, you know, that's what it's worth. And the guys that break their hump for you, you know? He said, I don't kiss anybody's ass. Wait a minute. You only asked me to give a little pat on the head. So I don't care. I don't kiss anybody's ass. We came to blows almost. We tore each other's shirt apart. We really did because I got mad. These fellas are working for practically nothing. I was only making, well, I was making $5,000 a week and never even asked for a raise after we became big shots, you know? But the idea was that, hey, the more that you pat somebody else on the back and tell them how good they are, they'll break their hump for you. Get up there and do everything you possibly can. But, you know, it needs a little incentive. And he wouldn't give it. As far as the Airwolf goes, we had a wonderful cast. Now, I'll never forget our leading man. He could look at a script just like that, put it down and say, okay, let's shoot. I said to myself, what are we getting into here? I have to study that line. You know, I have to get it in my head, go back there, you know, and when he takes one look and said, all right, let's shoot. And it was amazing, just amazing. It was making $35,000, no, $50,000 a week. Pretty good money. But he was a kind of a bad boy at the time. He got into fellas that were in with a little bit of drug, a little bit of drinking, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. They had to hire a man to take care of him, put him in a hospital, not a hospital, but in a separate apartment. I hate like a devil to say this, but the kid has come over now. He's making a comeback. God bless him. I'm very happy for him. But the idea is, but you know, we could still be shooting it. Because it was that kind of a show. It's a good show. But you know, still have your friends. That's what it's all about. And you take the good with the bad, and then you let it go with that. Can I help you? Can I help you?
Yes, sir. Welcome to Atlanta. And I just like to
prefer one over the other, but I think I showed you. I prefer McHale's Navy. I just want to have a lot of fun and you know, helicopters and everything else. Hey, what's not to enjoy, right? Until the insurance company said no.
All right. My question is basically in the movie Red, you played Henry the bookkeeper. You played opposite Bruce Willis. My question was basically, I got the impression you're having a hard time getting through the scene. You don't look like you're having too much fun on the screen. I was wondering if there was any backstory behind that. Bloopers.
What's that? Red?
Yes, Red. Henry the bookkeeper.
It's as big as that. No, don't be silly. It was part of the ensemble, kid. You gotta keep this in mind. It's all part of the ensemble.
Okay, I just got the
It was
impression.
as big as that. I shot it in one day. That's the whole thing.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
See what I mean? You think there is? There's no small parts. Just small actors. I want to tell you something. What a big privilege it is for me to be here in front of you and giving you these stories and everything else, and for you to pay homage to me. I tell you, does my heart good?